Welcome back to another episode of Life After Sunday. However you're listening to us, give us a like, subscribe to the shows. That way you don't miss any content. You can head over to Apple as well and leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. What's up, gentlemen?
What's up? Welcome back, Mr. Bob. We were Bobless last week.
Yeah.
Bob is back to reality.
Back to reality, back to work, back to the world of the living. Man, I had a busy week getting back at it, but it's good to be back.
You need a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah, that's rough, for sure.
Did you have a good time?
Oh man, we had a blast. I mean, bucket list trip.
I did a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. We you know what? We're very blessed, and man, from getting to see King George to going to the National Finals Rodeo a couple times. I mean, it was the Eagles.
George Strait.
Yeah.
And then
George Strait, Stapleton, Little Big Town. Yeah, we saw those.
You saw the Eagles in the
and
Sphere.
the Eagles, we saw them at the Sphere.
How was that?
Was
that nuts?
It's an experience. It's not a concert. It's an experience. I mean, literal experience. I mean, over 100,000 speakers in the place.
Are they all over? Like
you can't see them,
right?
but they're behind you. They're around. So like
every angle
when it thundered, your seat moved with the thunder. Just it rattled.
Awesome.
Did you ever feel like you were falling, like in some of the pictures?
Yeah,
and
you
stuff?
kind of. I mean, we had one lady with us that she couldn't. She had to watch just the band because she'd get car sick because of all the movement. I mean, the screens are all around you and above you. And so, like when he'd be playing guitar on the stage, and you'd be hearing it, and then a video would happen, and he'd be projected up above behind you, and you'd hear the guitar coming from up above behind you.
That's sick.
Dude, it was ridiculous.
Well, your pictures and videos were amazing, and like everything, they don't do it justice.
No,
but
not
even
at all.
for videos, I was like, oh my God, I got to go.
Yeah, it was, and you don't want to sit on the bottom, because if you're sitting on the ground level, you would have been the whole time looking up. So really, where we were at was a really good seat because we could, and a lot of artists say they don't really like playing there because nobody looks at them because of all that's going on. But the Eagles, they were like, we love playing here because there's over 100,000 speakers and the sound is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're more pure to the music.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It was so cool. And like I said, had a blast at the National Finals Rodeo.
How about Mr.
And then Cody Johnson.
Cody Johnson.
So we got a man crush on him, right?
Oh, man, huge man crush. Now, Luke Grimes off Yellowstone, who plays Casey on Yellowstone, he opened for Cody Johnson. And he said that was his first arena that he's ever played. So that was cool. But then Kojo comes out, and, dude, you want to talk about putting on a show. Dude puts on a show. And he tells you, you stay with me, and I'll leave every drop of sweat out on the stage for you. And he does, man. He puts on a freaking show. But he's putting on this show, and he stops right in the middle of it, and he starts talking about where he came from. He said, people told me that I could never make it. They told me that I couldn't wear a cowboy hat, that I needed to take my cowboy hat. They wouldn't sign me because I was wearing my cowboy hat. Couldn't play old country music anymore, that it wouldn't fly in today's world. And just on him about he couldn't do it. And he said, I put my faith in God, and look at me now. And he said, if you think you can't do it, if you don't think you can make it through life, you need to turn to Jesus. I mean, he right there on stage just saying, turn to Jesus.
Using his platform.
And hugely using his platform. Tells a story about right around Christmas time. Check this out. They've gone to a family Christmas, and he needed money for a gift, And so he took $20 they had at the house, and he gave that as a gift. And when they got in the car to leave, his wife told him, said, "You realize that was the last $20 we had." And he didn't know it. And so he said we were crying. We're crying on the way home. We got a bunch of leftovers that Mom hooked me up with. So we're like trying to figure out how we're going to last on those leftovers for the next month. And he said it was literally our last $20. And we get home, and it's real somber. And I go out and check the mailbox, and come back in, and I've got my very first 2 commission checks for writing songs, $2,500 a piece.
Wow.
He says, then we start
That's
bawling
awesome.
again. Both of us just crying. So, but dude, I mean, he is all about Jesus, and he's all about being a man. He's out there roping during the day that day over at South Point at a roping, and then he's got the concert going on, and he, like I said, he's a man's man, and he ain't got a problem with telling you that you need to love Jesus.
He's not ashamed.
Not ashamed. And man, I'm such a fan now. I mean, I'll follow him and what all he does. Y'all need to go check him out. Pull up some clips, and you'll find them online of him. Just put in Cody Johnson talking about Jesus, and there'll be clips from almost every one of his concerts.
There's a Amazon documentary on how he got started. What's it called? Man, it's so good. It talks about that. It talks about how he refused to lay down to the music industry. Didn't he create? He went independent for like his first album. So it's real interesting. So you can check that out on Amazon.
Yeah, I think one of them, they literally told him they would sign him, but he needed to ditch the cowboy hat. And he told them, next.
Thank you, next. I know, like, if you haven't either, I don't know if you guys have looked it up, but he does some, like, these, I don't even know what you call them, I guess, these song sessions where it's just, like, him and his guitar in, like, a church, and, like, he does, like, this old school hymns, and they are just amazing.
Well,
like, it's beautiful.
The guy that he gives credit to as being his pastor, the one that got him on the right track, is Bubba. I can't remember his last name,
but I think he was a roper dude.
Yeah. Well, he's connected to our church. The pastor at the Russellville Christian Center, they're connected to each other through, and so like his son, the pastor's son, was one of the top 2 bronc riders at the NFR this past weekend.
Oh, wow.
Or
How
weekend
cool is
back.
that, dude?
Yeah, I mean, it was like it all connected back, and how small our world is. I'm like, I want to reach out to Cody Johnson right now. When you're going to watch this podcast, hey, everybody, he watches our podcast, and he's going to see this, and we're going to get a phone interview with him. I'm just believing that. We're going to do a phone interview with Cody Johnson.
I am believing that with you, dude. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I think he would do it.
I agree 100%.
I mean, if it ever got to him, I think he would do it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just have him in the garage here.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I mean, he'd
land
come.
in his helicopter, come in here and hang out in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could pick him up at the baseball fields in Atkins, and
But dude was awesome.
that's very cool, man. I'm so glad you had a good time. Glad you're back with us. We missed you 100%.
And we mentioned you last week.
But on to our Christmas movie playoff bracket. Round 2 is complete. But before we move on, I know Mike and we've already voted. I need Bob's vote so we can make this official. So, Bob, we got Elf and Frosty.
Tied, right? Or are we...
No, we'll get to the tie. We need them all. We don't have them all yet, so Elf and Frosty.
Well, I mean, I guess I got to go Elf.
Elf. So, Elf moves on 11-0 over Frosty.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. That's a smashing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we got Grinch versus Scrooged.
Ooh.
That's a
And
tough one.
It's tough
man.
because it's actually like 2 different times of life. And which Grinch is this? Is this the Grinch?
Jim Carrey Grinch.
Okay, Jim Carrey Grinch. And then Scrooge with Bill Murray. I'm going to go Scrooged.
Scrooged.
Yeah, I'm sure it lost, but I'm going to go Scrooged.
Grinch moves on 10 to a lonely 1.
Hey,
Hey, I want to give
it went.
I want to
10
give Bill
to
Murray.
Bob.
10 to Bob.
I want to give Bill Murray his props.
No, that's a great movie, dude.
Oh,
We
yeah.
watch it every
Yeah.
year. Great movie. Now, this is where we have the tie. Christmas Vacation versus Home Alone. It is tied 5-5.
Ooh. I gotta go Christmas Vacay. Christmas Vacay. I just came off Christmas Vacay, and I'm going Christmas Vacay.
Christmas Vacation moves on by 1 vote.
Woo.
Next, we have The Christmas Carol versus Rudolph.
I'm going Rudolph.
So did everybody else.
Okay.
Rudolph moves on 9-2. And last but not least, we have Christmas with the Cranks versus It's a Wonderful Life.
Ooh.
Another tough one.
I think that's a tough one. I really like Christmas with the Cranks. I
Me
think
too.
it's hilarious.
It's one
And
of
I
our
love
family's
Tim Allen.
favorites. It's one of our family's
Yeah,
favorites.
It's great, but It's a Wonderful Life hits different. Man, it hits way different. But I'm more of a fun guy, so I'm going Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah, I voted Christmas with the Cranks. Me, you, and my wife were the only ones voted Christmas with the Cranks. So It's a Wonderful Life moves on 7-4.
Did we remember an idiot movie guy here? You know where the guy gets his eye shot out with a BB gun? What movie is that?
That is the
A
Christmas Story. Yeah.
Okay, and that's in there, right?
It already lost out.
It already lost out.
How did it lose? That's unacceptable.
Well, I think it was up against
A rock star.
I think it was
it was
against
up against-
Christmas Vacation, one of the first ones.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was against a big time movie.
Yeah, it was like our favorite is White Christmas. We watch it every year, but it doesn't hit everybody the same, but it hit a monster right out of the gate and got beat.
This has been fun. So that we're down to the final four. Final four. So we're gonna have 2 quick rounds. The last round and the final round, we'll get them in before Christmas, and we're moving on to Mike's quick hitters.
Quick
what you got
hitters.
for us, Mike?
What's going on with the dogs?
Probably UPS or FedEx.
That's good background music.
Yeah.
So one of
What's awesome about our new mics is they're probably not picking it up.
So these are just some things for us to kind of bounce around talking. And I'm going to hit y'all cold on this. What is y'all's favorite place to eat in Russellville? And you can't include Taco Villa because everybody agrees it's Taco Villa or, that loves it, but you don't really go there for an eating experience. You don't sit down. So outside of Taco Villa, if you're going to take your family somewhere to eat, where is it?
For an eating experience,
To go
So
sit
like-
down and eat, not to go.
an elevated meal, not like going to Wendy's or
Correct.
something like that, but somewhere when we go out to eat together.
Family sit down meal.
Yeah.
Out to eat.
There's a few different ones for us because we eat out a lot.
Throw me out your top 2.
My favorite's not in Russellville.
It has to be Russellville because it's Polk County. No, we're not doing any, over there where you grew up over by Morrilton. Not at it.
My favorite's in Conway.
No, there's too many. Las Vegas.
We don't go there.
Well, then you're going to have a really tough choice. And you can't say
Well,
Taco Bell.
here's the only issue is with Mexican restaurants, there's one on every corner.
And they're not very good.
And I mean, there's a ton of them, and they all taste fairly the same. Not a huge difference in all of them. Love some of them. My girls absolutely love La Huerta's, but I'm not a huge Mexican fan. Other than I like my tacos for sure.
Well,
But,
let me have a little piece on that. Coming from Houston, where there's real Mexican restaurants,
yeah.
I got used to eating real Mexican food and the meat being very high quality.
Yeah.
And I came here, and I think it was La Huerta that I went to the first time, and I got some sort of beef, and I was like, what is this goat meat? I think that this is straight. Like the Mexican food here, actually compared to real good Mexican food, is disgusting. Okay, the meat is awful. But if that's all you know, then it's awesome. But what has happened is I've slowly adapted to the lower quality meat, and now it's starting to become good. But the good part is it's not as expensive. But like if you get fajita beef, the fajita meat here it's pretty bad. Down there, the fajita meat was off the chart.
Well, as far as
amazing.
restaurants, I mean, if I'm going barbecue, it's Ridgewood.
That's the bomb.
It's more expensive, but it is, man, it's so good.
It really is.
And I have a hard time with barbecue and the fact that I'm like a normal man and I make my own barbecue, so I judge everything against my barbecue, but I make my own barbecue sauce.
Yeah, and that stuff's good. I've had it.
And it's hard for me to eat other barbecue sauce because I'm just telling you, mine's good.
But they got elite level meat there.
But yeah, it is. It's elite. It really is.
All right, give me another one.
There's Italian. We like La Villa. Their pizza's good. Their pasta's good. We've gone to a few other Italian restaurants in town. I don't want to down anybody. I like Pasta Grill too. They've got a crawfish cornbread there at Pasta Grill. Phenomenal. You need to try it. But La Villa would be ours that we go to more often. We went to another one here this past weekend after church, and Charlotte got her spaghetti, and it wasn't al dente. It was mushy.
Oh, that's gross.
And we're sticklers. It's got to be al dente. I mean, it's got to be just right.
Yes, 100%.
So, I would pick La Villa as a good one.
Well, that's two.
The last time I went to Old Bank was great. Several times before that, I was questioning if I would ever go back there.
Yeah, I think that's under a previous ownership.
It's under a new and Golden now is, from what I understand, is taking that and running, and he's a good guy.
His son's in the going to go to the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
He just went to the Army-Navy game. He's a real good dude.
So food was really good last time I was there. He was definitely checking on tables and making sure it was good and all that. So that I would give that one a little shout out too. And if some of y'all want to
chime in,
tell us what you think in Russellville. Give us a hit.
Chris, I know you're struggling over there.
No, I'm gonna go with my favorite. It's not my family's
Laherda.
favorite. No, my favorite is Ridgewood. But my family's not big on barbecue, so we don't hardly ever go there. I go there for lunch. That's my favorite, Ridgewood. Best barbecue around. I'm like Bob. I'm a stickler for barbecue, and I judge it harshly. And
Fat Daddy's ain't bad.
I don't like it.
It ain't bad, but if I had to pick between those two, it would
Ridgewood
be
all day.
Ridgewood 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. Cunningham's is great too, barbecue wise.
But they're never open.
Yeah, they're never
They
open.
are open now Fridays for lunch and every Saturday. Now, it used to be like one Saturday a month, but they're getting open more, so that's good. My second used to be a food truck. Now they're where Old Post is. It's tacos, burritos, and more.
Yeah.
It is authentic Mexican. It's amazing.
I gotta go try it to see if it's real.
It's real, 100%. When I worked in Little Rock, we would go to this taqueria on South University. It was like it was inside this Mexican grocery store, and they had the meat, like you could get lengua, which is tongue and all that. I mean, they had it in a thing, and they had a grocery store, but in the back they had taqueria, and it was amazing, so good. And I would get the burrito all the time, and this is very comparable to that.
Well, it's funny because I trash a lot of things about Texas, but one thing Houston has is good food. They have really, really good food. I'll say Ridgeway barbecue is as good as or better than anything I've had in Texas. So that's impressive meat that they've got there. And so my second one's probably Old Bank. I love CJ's when I want a burger, which is rare, but I like the environment at Old Bank. It's also that Point Remove Brewery. great food there.
I haven't been to one in Russellville. I've been to one in Morrilton. But I
The
haven't been-
Russellville one's better than Morrilton.
Really?
And Morrilton's the original location, but it's in an old fire station. It's
Yeah.
a good setup. I really enjoyed it. So that's probably where I'm
You
at.
know, Old Bank is opening a golf simulator.
It's open now.
Yeah.
Jake's working there.
That's connected to it.
They removed that I don't know, burrito shop that was money laundering. I don't know. That's a joke. Because it was open for like 2 years, and I never saw anyone in it.
Actually, I went there. It was kind of like a Chipotle.
Yeah,
We went there a couple times.
We got a Chipotle coming.
Yeah.
They're building it right now.
For sure.
that's going to be great.
Yeah. Chipotle's coming. Olive Garden's coming.
Speaking of Jake, this just made me think of this, okay? And it actually has to do with Jake, but it made me think of this. Something that just happened. So did y'all see where they've made the rule change now that if you go play JUCO ball, after 2 years, you still have 4 years of eligibility.
Mind blowing.
Game changer.
Game
changer. That means kids coming out of high school, man, it would be dumb not to go JUCO.
Especially if you're, middle,
Yeah.
lower. It gives you time to grow and get bigger, and you retain. We're going to have 30-year-olds playing ball.
I hate it. I hate the thought of that. I hate it, man. It's making it
for the student, it's awesome. For the
you
game,
can be a professional student. Well, there's no student anymore because they're going to be employees of the university when they get to the Razorbacks or wherever they go. They're going to have to be under contract. The scholarship's not going to matter. The school isn't even going to matter to them anymore. Eventually,
So
I think
5 years if you redshirt at a university. So you redshirt, you get 5 years plus 2 years in junior college, and you get 2 medical
7
redshirts.
years, dude.
You could be there for 9 years.
That's insane, dude.
Man, that's nuts.
but what that means for my daughter,
it's great for her.
she's going to play JUCO ball. She could get 2 years of JUCO, then go play at a 4-year school. And by the time she gets out from playing and her schooling being paid for by scholarships, she could have a doctorate.
I was going to say, she's going to be stacking up hours.
That's true.
She could have a master's.
You don't think I am bitter with college football right now. So that's where my mind automatically goes. But that's a great point. For these kids that aren't going to play football or high level athletes and all that. What else you got for us?
So you guys see those Facebook reels, all the time, and they've got. So I guess the Arkansas State Police. Have y'all seen any of their chase videos? But
those are mostly for you because you probably watch cop stuff.
I guess I try not to, but they've been feeding me some of them, and I got pretty jealous because they've got those Chargers, and I was watching a chase that came through Russellville, went all the way down to Morrilton where they crashed out. So I was enjoying watching the film. Oh, I know where that's at. I know where that's at. But I routinely heard them on the radio. They were stating their speeds. And those Chargers were rolling down 40 at 130 miles an hour. And I was so impressed because our Crown Vics, when you hit about 115, it would get up to about 123, but it was like watching sap run down a tree. I mean, it was like one digit. It was slow. And those Chargers are popping up there at 130.
But how fast will a little Nissan pickup go down Interstate 40?
It will hit the limiter, which I think was like 101. So I mean, it's sad, but man, the Arkansas State Police, they put out some good videos because they do, they just authorized pit maneuvers where I used to work, and I thought that's going to be a comedy watching that work because in a congested city, it's not the same as chasing a guy down 40 in the middle of nowhere and pit maneuvering them, but I do enjoy watching those pit maneuvers. There's some good stuff on that.
I can honestly say when we went to a few years ago, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I made a trip down to Katy, Texas, and rode in a Challenger, and
how fast did we go?
130
with ease.
Before we got on the interstate.
Yeah, like nothing to
flying, son.
It would blow the doors off a Crown
with
Vic.
Kickstart My Heart playing.
Yeah, it was awesome. But again, and I was doing that as an internal affairs sergeant. I was like, I'm going to go to jail. You know, I'm going to get fired. I got to retire.
You're retired now. You moved out of there, so we
Yeah,
can
I
talk
don't
about
care.
it.
Now they can take me to jail. I don't care. Except my truck will only do about 101, which is pathetic.
You can take the governor off.
I got to do something, man. This is pitiful.
Michael have more speeding tickets than.
So
I've ridden my Harley down 40 over.
what's a Harley top out at? You know, I know every model's different.
Bob,
I don't know what it tops out at.
how fast have you
How
had it?
fast has Bob gone?
About 120.
That's pretty on
That's
a
fast
motorcycle,
on a bike.
boy.
That's
On
getting
a
it.
motorcycle, that's getting it.
So the fastest I've ever been is when I had my Challenger. They had a Texas Mile, and it was on an airport, and you had to put on a helmet, put on gloves, fireproof gloves, and they would bring you up to the line, and you had exactly 1 mile to go as fast as you can go. And so that was the only time. It tops out at 180, but I was able to hit 164 in my car. And the thing I noticed is once you start getting up around 150, like you barely even touch the steering wheel and it's massive movements, you know, and then you realize how kind of bumpy the deal is. So that was kind of like a bucket list. I wanted to safely be able to do that fast. You can't do something like that on these roads here. You'll kill somebody, kill yourself. So I usually would only do like 140, but 164 was awesome. That's your living when you do that. So the other thing, it's been in the news a lot. You know, it's kind of like what do y'all think about this drones? Give me y'all's opinions, and I'll give you mine. So what's up with these drones that are in the news?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yes, you nailed it.
We're not getting any answers.
Yes.
There's zero answers, which is super sketchy.
Well, so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because it kind of is like, what's the truth, you know, these days? Sometimes the truth is kind of hard to find because, so I did a deep dive on it, being a drone nerd. And the confusing thing about it is you have police departments doing exactly what I used to do, putting up their drones, watching, and these are official statement, you know, police officers saying that they saw drones doing, you know, blacking out when they got close to them, speeding away. They were like 6 foot wide. That's not a hobby drone.
That's a massive drone, dude.
Yeah, so I've heard statements from senators. I've heard statements from city officials. And it's all confusing because every different level of the government, from the federal government all the way down to municipal, you're getting different messages. One says they're just hobby drones. People are a mistake to what they're seeing. And then you have another one who says they're Chinese drones probing all of our areas. Because then these are confirmed. They've been over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They've been over a Marine base in California. These are all like legit sightings. And then you've got some people saying, you know, you got the psychos who say they're aliens. They're not aliens. There are drones up. So the question is, and then they had to have a classified briefing for members of Congress. So the same government who says it's nothing, they're just hobby drones, police airplanes, or police drones, hobby drones, airplanes. Why do you have to have a classified briefing?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Why, if they are what you say they are, why have a classified briefing? Why have a briefing and bring the people in on it, and why do it classified?
Yeah. And
What's going on, Mike?
Yes, and then you have a congressman saying that the Iranians have a drone mothership, that could be a boat, you know, a fishing boat, just launching them off that.
And so then the other question is, do we watch so many CIA, the agency shows, that it makes us think that this is what's being hid from us, that this stuff is actually happening? Or is that really what's happening?
That's the thing. I think it's a combination of everything. And here, I actually think so. I think it's one of two things. It could be Chinese nationals probing our airspace, probing bases. They had a Chinese person arrested for running a drone to watch Vandenberg Air Force Base, watch a rocket launch. They caught him at the airport. We have a conflict coming with China. That could be it. It could be the U.S. military testing drones, how they can operate autonomously in our airspace and against our own defenses to see if they can be detected.
I mean, have y'all seen that show called Lioness?
I love that show.
Okay, and they had the drones on there that were armed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's scary.
Well, and that's why people are like with China. If a conflict breaks out with China, because you see from Ukraine, think about how many, if you just look in the last 4 years, how many Chinese nationals have come across the border? Tens of thousands of them. And anyone who has read up on China knows that they're great about the Trojan horse, using the laws of war to sneak in the back door. So you could literally, it doesn't take much to arm these drones. The drones they were using in Ukraine at the start were the same drones we were using in the police department because they can handle a small payload, and they were dropping mortars on people. Are they prepping for that? Or here's my tinfoil hat. Is this all a PSYOP campaign? So the PSYOP campaign would be they want to introduce legislation to get rid of the hobbyist drone. They don't want hobby drones flying around because of what they've seen in Ukraine and everything else. How do you galvanize the public? How do you get them behind? We got to get rid of these drones. We need to introduce legislation because they're already outlawing DJI Chinese drones. So is this a PSYOP to get the public to support drone legislation so that they can be outlawed?
Sadly, I think it's the latter there.
I kind of think it might be the latter.
Yeah. And it sucks because we all have drones.
We all have drones, and
Yeah.
I've already seen
DJI drones, actually.
Yeah. I've already seen a news article talking about enhanced legislation to deal with drones. So
The average guy, like, I can speak for myself, I think for you as well, like, I love to fly. I want to take cool pictures, some cool video every once in a while. That's the extent of my drone usage. My drone isn't even big enough to carry a payload.
No, it can't carry a payload
at all.
So I guess they're seeing what's happening in Ukraine. They're worried about maybe that happening here. But again,
You definitely got to get ahead of it.
you do have to get ahead of it. And I will say that there needs to be a way that they can be identified. They need to put out a signal so that if you see a drone above your house or wherever, just like you do an airplane, you can pull up an app and say, oh, okay, that's whatever. You can identify it, you can know where the operator is, because you can do that with airplanes. But the FAA are not going to be able to enforce that because all airplanes are supposed to broadcast their position through an ADS-B beacon. And all the time, you're probably not nerd enough to look at a plane, then pull up the flight tracker, and it's not on there. It's because they're not following FAA rules. So they're not gonna. It's gonna be a tough nut to crack. But it's just striking to me that from the president down to a mayor to a police officer on the street, we're getting conflicting information.
What is the truth?
What is the truth? And then that kind of leads me to the next thing. Have y'all been seeing the bird flu scare stuff starting already?
I didn't until you said something about it. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, California they've got a case in California, and I think the first human case was in Louisiana. And Gavin Newsom of California has already enacted an emergency, declared it an emergency for the bird flu. And Moderna is already creating a vax for the bird flu. And so you just sit here and it's like, have we heard this story before?
Big pharma.
Eerie.
Big pharma.
Here we go again.
Deja vu.
And again, what's the truth? Just like when we were in COVID. It's
What's
like,
the truth, man?
Do I need to do this? Do I not need to do this? I mean, they've burned the bridge so many times on truth. Now I don't trust what they say, the government.
Right.
And why is he already declaring a state of emergency? Like,
How many cases are there?
right now, I think in California, like there's 60 or 70 cases, but they're all within animals. The only human case, I believe, is in Louisiana. But
So
And
why
what
jump the gun? Like you said, why jump the gun and make it?
Well, and what's this bird flu supposed to cause?
it's supposed to what?
What's it supposed to cause? I mean, what's the side effects? What's the
Again, I kind of go, I don't know, because there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there who think that when Trump gets inaugurated, they're going to unleash some sort of pandemic. So yeah, so it kind of puts us into. Sometimes you struggle to find like you can go right now and try to find out. Okay, there's 100,000 articles on drones. I just want to know. Give me the truth. You can't find it.
Yeah, and how do you know the truth? What is the truth?
Yeah.
What is the truth?
Well, there you go.
It was.
But you can let's relate that back to the Bible. How many people will say, "Well, how do you know that that's true?" And I think that's where we have got to lean on ourselves. We've got to lean on our faith and lean on our relationship with God and lean on the Holy Spirit and His guidance to tell us, His nudges of, okay, that's true, and that's not. And people say, how can you? I mean, the way I used to tell people is they would want to argue Scripture, and I don't argue Scripture because it's just like math that once you decide that 1 + 1 = 2, now all of math is open to you and ready for interpretation.
Very good example.
If you disagree that 1 + 1 = 2,
It's hard to move forward,
then
right?
you can't move forward. So until we can decide that God equals God, God equals truth, Holy Spirit equals, you see what I'm saying? And once we've decided that, now we can move forward on knowing those things in our lives and having those nudges and understanding that it's more than just my conscience. It's just a knowing in my knower.
Knowing in my knower, I like that.
That's my guts.
Yeah.
It's my gut feeling. And I kind of want to surround the meat of this podcast on what is truth. And I ask these guys to take a look at Jesus and Pilate's conversation found in John 18:33-38. And I'm actually going to read that just real quick. And it says, 33 says, so Pilate went to, I can't even say that word, Praetorium again.
Hey, there you go. For comedy, just try to pronounce it.
And called Jesus and asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus replied, are you saying this on your own initiative, or did others tell you about me? Pilate answered, I am not a Jew, am I? Your own people and their chief priest have handed you over to me. What have you done that is worthy of death? That's what Pilate asked Jesus. Jesus replied, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not of this world. So Pilate said to him, then you are king? Jesus answered, you say correctly that I am king. This is why I was born. And for this I have come into the world to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth, who is friend of the truth and belongs to the truth, hears and listens carefully to my voice. And then lastly, Pilate said to him, what is truth? And when he said this, he went out to the Jews again and told them, I find no guilt in him, no crime, and no cause for accusation.
What is truth?
What is truth? And I think, and I'll get your guys' thoughts on this, but if you look back, like, in this time, like, it was mass unrest in Judea, 100%, and mass propaganda as well.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to Rome was trying to insert itself, the
Right.
Roman government, And I think that when Pilate said what is truth, this is Pilate at a point where he's starting to believe all this propaganda, and he's just like, almost like throwing his hands up, like, what is the truth? Like, what even is truth? I think that's kind of where his head was at. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's almost like he was exasperated, like when he's out there, you literally have a mob. And so they think that he didn't really care for the Jews, yet he's trying to manage them. And he was at a point where even though he believed Jesus was innocent, he could not pardon a non-Roman citizen without having the mob and or headquarters come for his own head. And so I think he was weak-spined. I'll give him credit for at least saying that he thought he was innocent. But it was kind of I kind of look at it as a way to literally complain to the crowd, like literally asking them, what is truth? Because this is just a mob of emotion, and you're literally going to kill an innocent man based on an emotional, the Jews were all mad.
Well, he was like, when he after that conversation, he went out and said, Jesus or Barabbas. And
Right.
He washed his hands. He didn't want a part of it.
Right. He didn't want to be the one to make the decision.
Yeah. He let the people make the decision.
He wanted them to be the ones that had to basically have the blood on their hands.
And I believe it was actually customary. This wasn't the only time that he did this. Every year at Passover, if I'm not mistaken, he would do the same thing with two prisoners and let the Jews let them release one. So I think that was customary.
It was, and when you look in history, trying to figure out there's really not much information on what happened to Pilate after that. So, did you find the same thing, that basically he was recalled for some reason back to, I guess, Rome?
Yeah, he was already in hot water at the time,
Right.
with the Roman government, and I think some years later, he did some mass murder of Samaritans or something, and they called him back. And after that, there's really no historical record. I'm sure the government probably killed him.
I wouldn't doubt it. He just disappeared off the planet. Apparently, there's also some thought too that he didn't really like Jews.
But the whole thing for him was just a political advancement. He didn't feel one way or the other. Honestly, he just wanted to do what would help his own agenda. So truth to him really didn't matter. It was about what could further him in what he wanted
In the Roman government.
in the Roman government. I mean, have y'all ever watched the TV show White Collar? Great show. And the guy's a con man in there, and he works for the FBI as a consultant. And they inserted him into this campaign one time, and the whole show's talking about, well, they're trying to figure out how to further this guy's campaign. And so he starts talking about this playground that is not going to be built. And they're all like, what are you talking about? There's not a playground that's not going to be built. And he said, exactly. And by the end of the episode, people have rallied to build this playground that there never was a reason for it in the first place. And he played off of there wasn't one, and it happened that there. You see, that's all about getting people behind what you're doing and getting that figured out. What is the actual truth? Well, truth is what you put in front of you. Because people believe things to a degree that it becomes truth to them. But real truth has to have substance. Real truth, to me, to us, God is truth. Jesus is truth. And I stand that in that equal.
Right. John 14:6 says, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth,
and life.
and the life. And he is the truth.
And no man comes to the Father but
Through me.
through me.
Jesus.
That is the truth. There's your equal.
That's it.
See, in the Roman government feared Jesus, or in that small section area. I'm sure Rome didn't even know about it, but the governor, Pilate, I'm sure, in those days, if you became popular with the people, you were going to become a target for the governor or for Caesar. You were a threat to their power. And here's this guy running around saying he's king, and it started having some big crowds following him.
That was a threat.
That's a threat to their power.
It's crazy because, like you said, like, the truth is what's standing before me. Right. The truth was standing before Pilate. But like you said, literally, but he was after that political agenda, like you're talking about.
That's right.
It's mind blowing, dude. Like, we've read this over so many times, but this conversation is deep. It really is. It's wild.
And it reveals gross politics.
It does
at the beginning of all this. I actually looked up. When I looked up the reasons, Rome fell, possibly the greatest citizens, government in the history of the world prior to the United States, and one of the reasons that they listed was Christianity, and the reason it weakened the government is because the government received its power by being almost a deity to the people. It's all for Caesar, like he became like a deity. Well, when Christianity came, their focus shifted from the government to the religion or to Christianity, and it took their focus off of the government, and thus was another pillar in what made them weak. And it's kind of interesting today, we still have these same discussions. Usually the left believes the government is the deity. It provides everything. It's your big mama and daddy. And then the right is more, typically more Christian, and more, you survive. Christianity is our thing, where the left, it seems like the government is their thing. That's just my opinion. But
well, you also got to look at, when Jesus gave us, he said to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's not what government tells you to do.
That's right.
That's the exact opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Of
me.
Yeah, it's about government first and only. It's this power.
It's power.
And that's all there is power. And it's like a boss that pushes their people by criticizing and knocking them down, or a boss that leads their people by going out front and being in the trenches and helping.
Like, I'm jumping in the ditch with you.
Yeah.
That's a leader.
Right. That's right. And, Jesus said that, he said, I am love. Well, let's break that down. He didn't say he was the essence of love. He wasn't a form of love. I am love. So everything that you can see of what love truly should be, agape love, should be what you see in Christ. And that's what we should be giving when he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. It wasn't filio love, a love for, I love you, man. No, it's a deep, I would give myself for. And that's not what Rome was about. It was about, you give to us.
Building statues of a Caesar, of this person, this ruler, that ruler, complete. And so even today, government is threatened by anything other than it's you worshiping the government. Government will provide you health care, will provide you your paycheck. It'll, we're here for you. And then the whole time they're legalizing new drugs, legalizing this, trying to get the population to become numb. And it's just
let us be your God.
Well, if we get to where you have to have us,
yes,
now you can't go without us. That's kind of like have been on staff ministry. If you allow yourself to be where all of your income comes from that source, now you have to kind of submit to everything.
Yes,
because you can't do without that income.
You don't have an independent thought,
right? So you can't have it. But if you keep yourself in a place, and that's why God tells us not to have bills, not to have debt, is because then we become a slave to those things, and we kind of have to support things and do things that we don't really want to do.
But you have to now.
But we have to. And that's where the government wants to get us is, okay, if we can get them so reliant on us, now they can't do without us.
And that's why Christianity is banned in, I think, 153 countries. I don't know the exact number, but it's why in China, Christianity's because in Christianity, a true believer, you can put a guy in prison and he'll say, I've got Jesus in my heart. I'm good. You can't break me. Like we talked a few weeks back, when they went to that Ukrainian church and they're like, the bombs are hitting close. And they're like, let them hit and just gets us into heaven quicker. Governments can't control that kind of thinking, and it's a threat. And so you wonder why would basically love, agape love, Christianity, why would it be outlawed? That doesn't make any sense.
Because it's a threat.
It is a threat.
It's crazy, too. Like, we talk about the word love. Like, in our English dictionary, like, you have love, and, like, I love you guys different than the way I love my wife and the way I love blah, 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 my daughters, whatever. But we only have one word, love. Yeah. Back then,
very complex.
They had multiple words for love that meant different things. And it's just, that's a little sidebar, but it's mind-blowing to me.
Isn't that what and so agape love is basically just?
Agape love is God love.
Yeah. Okay.
I've
heard it used a lot.
Filio is, like Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love.
Nice.
Filio.
Yeah, like we love each other, filio.
Yeah.
Oh man, see, I love hearing stuff like that. That is great. That's
but neat. We don't have in our English language, we don't have that word to define brotherly love or motherly love or the way you love your wife and those things.
That's also one of the problems with our relationships today, because like a couple of kids start dating and they say I love you. Well, when he says I love you means something totally different than when she says I love you. She means something that's got a whole lot more root and base in it.
He wants to get in the pants.
And his love means I just want to get in your pants. I mean, it's
a true.
I said it. I've been that guy. Yeah. I was that kid.
So it's the same. It's the same word, but the equal's different.
Yeah.
The
equal thing again.
It depends on what comes after the equal. What's the equal? Because if God equals love, if God equals God, but they want God to equal government.
Mm-hmm.
See, now you see once you can see them as your God, as your provider. Now they have you. So where is your equal? Where do you cut that off?
That's fascinating.
It really is.
It goes all the way back to Pontius Pilate. There's that crazy group of people called the Coptic Christians. I call them crazy. They got some pretty. Just research them one day if you're bored. But I did find in doing research for this show that they actually believe that Pilate, when he left government, he became a Christian, and they actually celebrate him with a festival sometime. I think it's in June. They celebrate it. And then I also read, too, it's in the, I'm going to get the name wrong. I don't know if it's the Disciple Creed, but they mention Pontius Pilate in that creed. And it's like, so what I learned from that was, and that's a Christian creed. I know the Methodists say something in there about that. I think they're just reciting whenever Jesus was put on the cross via Pontius Pilate. But they, Christianity throughout history has viewed Pilate very, very, very favorably, because even though in their mind, the Jews, I guess he's separating it. Yes, technically he didn't stop it, but the Jews are the one who chose to kill him via the mob, where he actually, like they always say, he washed his hands of it. And so a lot of Christians throughout history have decided that, at least he got up there, and at least he said, we would think about it. We have on record that he believed that this man had no guilt. And in that era, even though he still allowed it to happen, that is a risky thing to say in front of the mob. So it's kind of interesting that the guy known for killing, allowing Christ to be killed, that Christians have viewed him favorably throughout history. Kind of interesting.
I mean, let's just look back on elected officials. Did Jesus elect the 12 or select?
He says he chose them.
He chose them. Which one was selected by the group? Look that up and see which disciples, after his disciples, were pulled in by basically voting him in. Those are the ones that went wrong.
Oh, wow.
It's just like having a calling on your life. You have a calling, you don't have a selection. And if you have a calling and you've been called to do something, no one can take that calling from you. That's your calling that God has given. It's been given by God, not by man. And so no matter if someone says you're not good enough, you don't speak well enough, you don't sing well enough, but you've got this calling that's been put in you, then you go after your calling in whatever direction that God leads you in that, not how men say that you can have that calling.
Well, again, I think it changes because of the condition of your heart. And I felt like I was from a kid called to be a police officer. It was in my
That's right.
It was in my heart.
That's in your knower.
Yeah. Where a lot of the people that are coming into the career field now, they are not called. It is simply a job to them.
There's a difference.
And the performance when your heart is not in something is 100% different than somebody it's just a job.
And that's why, hey, I'm going to step on some toes right now.
Let's go.
That's why
Get my steel-toe boots on first.
All right. I don't believe, because we see a lot of churches nowadays, that they pass that church down to the next in line in their family. So the pastor has been there, has built this church and the finances and all the things of it, and they pass it down to their next generation. And I think that's wrong, because you either have a calling and have been called into that. Now, not saying that their children or their grandchildren
can be
called, but what I'm saying is that shouldn't be, you've already got that set in your mind that, well, my son is going to take this over, and that may not be his calling.
I think I think that could be completely two different things from what you're saying. Like, if you preconceive, like, even maybe before you have a son or whatever, like, and you're a pastor and you say, my son, you're trying to put that calling on his life.
Right.
If you're out there let no man call you into ministry or anything.
Right. That's right.
That should be straight from God. But not saying that you can't,
because it becomes a business.
Yeah, but that's not saying that, like, there's a father and then, like, he doesn't think those things, and he's letting it be what it is. And then later on down the line, his son's like, "Dad, I think I've been called to preach."
Well,
That's different.
There's
Yeah.
exceptions, of course, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, I think I'm following you. There are exceptions, but generally speaking, we can never get inside and see what
But-
someone's
but-
heart
but
is.
let's think about
but
this.
it does. I think you're onto something. In
Let's
most
think
cases.
about this, because how much do we want our children to succeed? And what we know is what we know. And so we, like you said, we place that on them as to follow in our footsteps, whether it be a shoe shine business, or ministry. We put that on them instead of giving them the tools of knowing who God is, that God loves them and God leads them. And now that you're out there, you have the decision on what you're called in, because you're listening to that relationship with God. And it's not coming from me saying, hey, I built this business, and so you've got to take this over.
versus just raising your son and you're going about your business, and one day, you're not influencing him by saying, you're going to take this over, you're going to take this over. He just one day perhaps gets that calling.
Well, it happens in a lot of, like you said, like I see it time and time again in sports where a dad is trying to relive his childhood through high school athletics with his kid, like with
my
football
daughter,
or whatever.
My youngest daughter, she's great. Softball player, she's great. She was young. We got into our first year of live arm, and after practice, she comes to me. She says, "Dad, I only play because I think it makes you love me more." And I was like, whoa. I said, well, then let's go do something else, because I can't love you any more than I already do. And so let's find something that you love. And so we stepped away from softball for 2 years, went and played soccer. I mean, we did all kinds of stuff. And then she came back to me and goes, hey, I really miss softball. I said, well, if that's what you miss. And now she
decided that on her own.
Yeah, that was her decision.
Yeah.
It wasn't me putting it on her. But if I'm not careful, I could have placed that. I mean, I was not a baseball player, but for women, softball, fast pitch is probably the closest to a physical, get dirty kind of sport that I can get in line with that, But what I'm saying is, I could have so easily just put that on her, and you see kids burn out on things because their parents or their dads or whatever push them to do what they want them to do, instead of taking in consideration that God has put a special calling on their life to do something that fits them.
Well,
and
see, I've tried to do that with Jacob. I mean, like, I've got a calling. I'm trying to put it on him. I'm using all the persuasive powers I have as a dad. And what I'm trying to get him to do is, when the trash is full, to take it out. And it doesn't happen. Your son's home whenever you go in there. Like, I get up today. He was late last night. And I get up, and the trash, it's got those doors. And there's his old bank styrofoam thing sticking out of it. There's another plate sticking out of it.
But it didn't fall. If it didn't fall, it ain't full.
So I'm sitting there going, out of all the influence we have as parents, sometimes it just doesn't even touch. And I went outside and looked at his car. You know how when a car sits out in the field for a while, like on the hood, he's got a white car, you'll start seeing that black stuff kind of on the hood. I walk outside and I look on his hood, and I'm like, I see that black stuff. I'm like, his car looks like it's been in a field. Where are these persuasive powers that I'm supposed to have as a father?
My daughter, it rains the other day, and she's like, oh, I'm so glad it's raining because my car's getting a bath.
Oh, no.
I was like, no, that's not how a car gets a bath.
That's not how it works. I had a similar experience with what you were talking about just this year. My daughter played Pee Wee basketball all through, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and I was pushing it, and I wanted to play 7th grade basketball, first year of school ball, and she was like, Dad, I really don't want to. I want to try volleyball. And, I had to, instead of getting mad and saying, pushing her to do that, I had to step back like you did and say, hey, look, that's what you want to do it. You know, if you love volleyball, get after it, you know.
There is another side to that, and I'll tell you about an experience I had with Jake where he was playing football in the 7th and 8th grade time frame, and all of his buddies were starting to quit football. And he initially wanted to. Because Jake, I love him to death if he ever listens to this. When he was young, he can sometimes be like a sheep. And I didn't believe, and maybe I'm lying. Maybe I was trying to live vicariously through him. Maybe I don't understand my own head on this, but I just thought, he's being a sheep. No, you're going to stay with it. You're going to stay with it. You're not going to follow all your boys like a sheep. You're going to do your own thing. And he stuck with it. And here we are, you know, state championship later and wonderful memories throughout, you know, good friendships built through college football. But on that day, had I allowed him to just go, okay, son, you do what you want to do.
Right.
So the key is, you know, having to know your own kid.
I think that's a different situation.
Yeah,
though.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And
But
knowing,
I understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
because every
100%.
kid's different. Like, Brookie doesn't strike me as sheepish at all.
Right.
She's going to cut her own path.
All her friend group, her three best friends,
playing.
they still play basketball.
Yeah, and she cuts her own path. Where Jacob was not. He's the last guy in line, you know. So he was.
Well, that's
every
the thing.
kid's different.
Our girls, we're going to make sure that they stayed active and doing something in those developmental years, and then once they get of an age that they can decide they don't really like this or they like this, you know, because there are some kids that they're band kids, and there are some that are athletes, and then there are some that can do both.
Well,
But at some point, there's a decision that's being made in there. But you've got to stay through those developmental years, because that's why, like with her, she didn't think, she told me that. I didn't say, okay, well, we quit and we just go do something else.
Right.
Or we go do nothing. We went to do something else. And I have always, and my kids will tell you, when we start something, we finish it. And I don't, if I say I'm going to do something, I do that. Even if it's not what I want to do, even if something, listen to me right now. If you are under 25,
you're dumb.
if you say you're going to go somewhere and do something, you do that even if a better option comes along, because you've made a commitment.
He's talking to his daughter right now.
No, I'm not. Because my girls are that way. They've grown up that way. So when we say we're doing something, that's what we do.
What about when they're late?
See, that's one of my soapboxes about being late. If you're on time, you're late. When you're late, you're telling everybody else that you're more important than they are. Yes, 100%. Think about that. When you come and show up on your time frame, that everybody else has got the whole meal on the table, they're waiting on your biscuits, and now everybody has to live on your time frame. You just said, I'm more important than you are. Yeah. A couple soapboxes. Hopefully you're still with us, and you got some of that.
I felt that passion.
It is.
Well, I also think on a kind of a closing point on all this, I also have memories of football. That we had a huge class when I was a sophomore that all quit because they didn't get playing time. They got mad and quit. And I graduated with like 3 seniors who had been there from 7th grade on because they all quit.
Yeah.
You know, their sophomore year. And then when you talk to them now, every one of them regrets it.
Mm-hmm.
And if Brooklyn hadn't have came to me like wanting to, like, she's cheerleader first, and now she'll do that till she graduates and maybe even college. I don't know, but I think if she'd have came to me and said I want to quit basketball, but I'm not doing anything else, we'd have had a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Versus, I love volleyball. I think I like it better. Like,
right.
I'm going to play volleyball.
Yeah, I'm not.
And I want to put my effort and time into that.
By the way, this Dear Doo Doo your wife made is good. Right It's good.
Reindeer. Let's change that to reindeer poop, not deer doo.
I like deer doo-doo better. Look at it. It looks like it, too. Look at that.
Man, thank y'all for listening. Thank you for hanging with us. As Christians, Christian men, we're called to stand for the truth. This is the truth.
That's right.
Jesus is the truth. I know it's tough in these days in this political environment and all this compromise going on, but it's your duty as a Christian man to stand for the truth, stand for the word, and
be discreet. Analyze. Don't just take everything at face value. Let's analyze it. Look deeper. Don't just take the easy bait at the top. Do a little digging.
That's
digging.
right.
That's good stuff. Let's pray us out of here. Definitely, Father, Lord, I thank you for Mike and Bob. I thank you for this podcast. I thank you for our listeners. And I pray, God, that you continue to lead and guide us by your Holy Spirit. Give us the discernment, Father, to know the truth. Give us the strength to dig into your word, to find the truth. Bless everyone. Have a Merry, Merry Christmas. Thank you for sending your son, Father, to be born as a man, 100% God, to die on the cross and rise again, to take away our sins, to give us eternal life. Thank you that you are the truth, and we love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for listening to the Life After Sunday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.